Out of millions of hunters in the world of solo leveling, only a handful of them have managed to achieve the mighty S rank. These hunters are so strong, their power is literally impossible to measure, and even entire countries are terrified of their strength. So in this video, we'll be explaining and ranking all 31 S rank hunters in solo leveling. For example, Kay is the weakest S rank hunter on this list, and he is among many Japanese hunters we met during the Jeju Island arc. Due to his nose being very sensitive to mana, he has to wear a gas mask at all times so he wouldn't throw up when near other hunters. However, this also has its good sides, as it allows Kay to easily sense enemies from coming from afar much faster than other hunters. Kay is a mage class, and he specializes in ice magic, as seen when he put up an ice wall to separate Goto and Jinwoo when their fight got out of hand, and also when he created an even bigger ice wall to defend himself against the Ant King, although that didn't really end too well for him. One done, 30 more to go, and each new hunter is going to be more powerful than the last until we eventually reach the absolute strongest ones in the end. For now, let's continue with Kay's friend, Ippei. Ippei is another Japanese S-rank hunter introduced during the Jeju Island arc. He looks like your generic edgy guy, having a hood at all times, black hair, and circles around his eyes. He also has a dry sense of humor and doesn't talk much. Shocker. Ippei doesn't really have cool abilities like the majority of other hunters, but he's kind of fast. So fast that when he goes all out, it doesn't even look like he's running, but flying. On Jeju Island, he did well fighting some weaker ants, but once the Ant King appeared, he and Kay couldn't even survive for 5 seconds. Yonsuk. Yonsuk is the first Korean hunter on the list and would be among the most forgettable S ranks if they didn't put him in the first 20 seconds of the anime. Yeah, it's that guy! Yonsuk fights using electric Wolverine-like claws, as shown when he fought at the 3rd Jeju Island raid together with Baek and Min. Now, although we don't know how Yonsuk died during that raid, we know that it traumatized Min and made him quit hunting altogether. His death also really demoralized the Korean government and made them stop trying to retake Jeju Island. Now, while you may think that he has to be the weakest hunter on this list since he died fighting against regular ants, I don't think that's true. And it's more likely that he got caught by a surprise attack or something. Otherwise, Min could have just healed him. But did you know there are only 2 S-rank healers in the whole show? Yeah, it's true, and one of them is Akari Shimizu. Akari has short orange hair and orange eyes, but don't let her class and looks fool you, because this girl is a fraud. Not only do we never see her actually heal anyone, but instead of a book or wand or something you would imagine a healer to use as a weapon, she wields a giant battle axe that is taller than her. While talking to another hunter during the Jeju Island raid, her head suddenly dropped on the floor. She probably didn't even notice that she was beheaded by the Ant King. Although we still have many hunters left to cover, I always loved how solo leveling introduced us to so many cool characters from different countries with different abilities and unique designs. Just recently, I've been rereading the entire story in order to create this video. And if you guys want to read it too, you can do it on the Web Novel app, which is the sponsor of today's video. Whether you just want to refresh your memory or maybe follow Sung Jinwoo's incredible journey for the first time, Web Novel is the place to go. Using the app is also really easy. You only need to download it using my link in the description, click on the search bar, type solo leveling, and you're ready to go. But if you're like me and you've already read it multiple times, don't worry, because there are many similar comics and novels you can read. I recommend My Dragon System and Beginner with the Mightiest Account. As in both of these, the main character starts really weak and then grows incredibly strong over time, just like Jinwoo. What are you waiting for? Click my link in the description to download the Web Novel app now and start reading. Ma Dongwoo. Even though Ma is a master of one of the top 5 guilds in Korea, he is definitely among the weakest Korean S ranks. If it weren't obvious by his size, hairiness, and a face that can't stop smiling, Ma is a tank-type hunter. His strength and durability are far beyond those of a normal human, and he can also use his unique ability, Gigantification, to double in size. Ma was able to fight evenly against an untransformed Baek, which is not something anyone can do, and was also able to stop the Ant Queen's attacks. Unlike some of the other hunters we just mentioned, Ma didn't immediately die to the Ant King, and was even able to continue fighting him after losing an arm. Based on this performance, Ma may seem impressive and worthy of a higher place on the list. But then you remember that he also lost to Japanese hunter Kenzo in less than a minute, which is a bit weird. But due to this, I can't place him any higher. So, who is this Kenzu guy who drilled Ma into the ground during their sparring match? Well, he is another one of those Japan S ranks who participated in the Jeju Island raid. And besides that, we don't know anything about him. Now, the reason I said it's a bit weird that Ma lost to this guy so quickly is because Kenzo was immediately killed by the Ant King as soon as the monster arrived, while Ma was able to hold his own for a bit. However, a win is a win, and Kenzo deserves to be ranked higher than Ma. There are still 25 incredibly powerful S rank hunters left to cover, and the last ones will absolutely blow your mind. But you'll never believe what happened to the next S rank on the list, Tatsumi Fujishima. Get this, he was a Japanese hunter, okay? He went to the Jeju Island to fight ants, okay? And he got beheaded by the Ant King. Wow, totally unexpected. Okay, in all seriousness, Tatsumi is just another hunter who was unfortunate enough to get targeted by the Ant King. He was on the same team as Akari and Kenzo and lived the longest out of them. Though not by much, because while he was able to dash at the Ant King, he didn't even have enough time to unsheath his sword. So he survived for maybe a few more milliseconds than Kenzo? Anyway, the next real hunter is Kanao Tawata. Finally, we have an S-rank hunter who actually survived the Jeju Island raid. And before you ask, no, she didn't survive due to her superior skills, she just missed the Ant King. Kanao's black hair, red eyes, and black nails make her look like a vampire, but don't worry, she's just a normal katana-wielding girl. Although her strength and speed are impressive, she was still vastly outclassed by Cha during their sparring match. On top of that, she was also powerless against a single giant from the Japan Crisis arc and was very annoyed by how useless she was. But Mari Ishida may actually be the hunter we know the least about. During the Jeju Island raid, she was on the same team as Goto Ryuji, the strongest Japanese hunter, so we can speculate that she is stronger than the others we've covered so far. The only other thing we know about her is that, like many of her Japanese comrades, her head is not attached to her body. Minoru Hoshino. Minoru is another rare survivor from the Jeju Island raid. He is a confident, serious guy who was on good terms with all of his fellow S-rank guildmates. During the sparring match, he was able to dodge arrows fired by Leem, a Korean S-rank, and later defeated him by slamming him into the wall. During the Japan Crisis arc, Minoru, along with Kanao, was trying desperately to do any damage to the giants, but to no avail. 21 left to go, and the characters will soon start to get exponentially stronger, and you won't believe how strong the last one is. Leem Taegyu. Leem is the guildmaster of the Fiend Guild, and not only is he the only S-rank range type, he is the only range type in the whole series. That must be lonely. Leem is not a confident person, and even hoped that the Japanese hunters would go easy on them during their sparring match, but at least he isn't a coward, and always does his hunter duties. In the past, Leem was the leader of Korea's #1 guild, and even now, after many of the best members left, his guild is still in the top 5 guilds. Now, as we already discussed, he lost to Minoru rather quickly, but I don't believe that is a good way to judge his strength, since you can't really expect a ranger to beat a fighter in a one-on-one close quarters combat. So what did Leem do on Jeju Island? Well, he survived a direct hit from the Ant King, which is already better than all of the Japanese hunters on the island. The magical arrows he uses in a battle also pack quite a punch, as shown when he easily pierced the queen with them. Atsushi Kumamoto. Atsushi is another Japanese S-rank, and he's that one guy who wears a face mask and an eye patch. Contrary to other S-ranks, he's not at all confident, and is a coward, going against the weakest opponents first. And even then, he'll try to attack them from behind. During the sparring matches, he sparred 1v1 against Baek and Cha, and showed us that he is quite strong. Against Baek, he could easily keep up speed-wise, and he would surely defeat Cha if Jinwoo didn't interfere. Atsushi has this weird ability to go berserk when he gets seriously hurt, and by the looks of it, it enhances all of his physical abilities while turning him into a killing machine. He was on the same team as Kanao at Jeju Island, and is the third and last Japanese survivor. And although Atsushi is pretty strong, let's continue this list with the strongest S-rank healer in the series, Min. Min is the second S-rank healer, but as I said already, he might as well be the only one, as Akari didn't show anything remotely close to healing. Min is a compassionate person who hates violence, which is why he quit being a hunter and got a normal job. However, after some convincing from Baek, Min decided to get back into the game and help other Korean hunters during the Jeju raid. Unlike Akari, Min is an insane healer, being able to quickly neutralize the Ant Queen's poison that would have surely killed Baek and Ma. Healers are usually expected to be in the back since they aren't that good in combat, but Min actually stated that he has the combat abilities of at least an A-rank hunter, which makes him even more impressive. He unfortunately died fighting the Ant King, but proved to be useful even in death when Jinwoo temporarily revived him to heal Cha, who was at death's door. This guy was seriously underrated. Choi Jong-in. Choi is a Korean S-rank hunter who specializes in fire magic and is the guild master of the Hunters Guild. He is a very sly and composed person, which is what made him look so menacing when we were first introduced to him. Choi was without a doubt Korea's strongest mage-type hunter, but one thing he could definitely work on is his attacks names. I mean, look at this. Flame Spear, Flame Prison, Flame Dragon. The guy definitely isn't the most creative hunter. But nonetheless, these attacks do their job and can burn even the strongest monsters to a crisp. His physical abilities are also on a really high level. We saw his durability during his battle with the Ant King, where he was able to stay conscious after experiencing a lethal blow. And we saw how fast he was when he was able to quickly react and dodge the Statue of God's Heat Vision attack. All in all, the guy is definitely deserving of being the leader of the #1 guild in Korea. Baek Yeonhu. Baek is a Korean hunter who specializes in transformation magic and is also the guildmaster of the White Tiger Guild. One of Baek's most impressive abilities is called the Eye of the Beast, and it allows him to accurately measure the power level of monsters or other hunters. This ability is so refined that he was even able to guess that Jinwoo has the power to continuously grow stronger, despite his already impressive physical strength. Baek also has a really unique ability to transform into a tiger-like monster. In this form, his speed and strength are significantly increased, and even Atsushi was afraid when Baek transformed. Although, to be fair, it's not that hard to frighten Atsushi. Now, it's not really clear how strong Baek truly is, but considering his rivalry with Choi, who is one of the strongest Korean hunters, Baek should rank pretty high up as well. With Baek covered, we are exactly halfway through this video, and although some of the characters so far were pretty impressive, it's nothing compared to the monsters we'll start covering now. Reiji Sugimoto. Reiji was the Vice Guild Master of the Draw Sword Guild, which was the strongest guild in Japan and the second strongest in the entirety of Asia. However, despite all of these achievements, Reiji never showed us any of his abilities, and we've never seen him fight. During the Jeju Island raid, he was stationed on one of the battleships outside the island where he didn't see much action, and later on during Japan's crisis, we saw him commanding some of the guild members without participating in combat. Still, considering he should be Japan's second strongest hunter, I think 16th place on the list is fitting for him. Cha Hae-in. Before Sung Jinwoo came into the picture, Cha was the strongest hunter of the strongest guild in Korea, and without a doubt Korea's greatest active hunter. Cha is a very diligent woman who cares a lot about the lives of those around her, as demonstrated by how she developed a habit of patrolling the boss lair during her guild's raids in order to ensure their safety. One of her most impressive abilities is called Sword of Light, and as the name suggests, it allows her to transform her sword into pure light, dramatically increasing its cutting power. She can also move at great speeds, and is well known amongst the Korean hunting community for just how fast she is in battle. Besides strength and speed, Cha also has an incredible perception. As soon as she met Jinwoo for the first time, she could tell something wasn't quite right with him. Even arrogant Goto Ryuji considered her competent, and even the Ant King knew she was a threat and decided to take her out quickly. Hwang Dong-soo. Despite Hwang being a bully and constantly abusing those weaker than him, credit where credit is due, the guy is pretty strong. He was a part of the single strongest guild in the entire world, and even in that guild, he was among the strongest S-rank hunters. At some point in his life, Hwang met Norma Selner, and she offered to upgrade his powers using her abilities, which boosted his already incredible strength by around 30%. Although Hwang didn't showcase any unique abilities during his battle against Jinwoo, it was clear that his physical strength and endurance are on a really high level, as he managed to get up and continue fighting even after Jinwoo brutally overpowered him. At the end of the day, it was obvious that he was leagues below Jinwoo and was quickly killed by him. Oh, also, once Jinwoo turned him into a shadow soldier, he started off as a general class summon, just like Beru the Ant King, which further proves how powerful he was. Yuri Orlov. Yuri Orlov was a Russian S-rank hunter who specialized in support magic, specifically in barriers. Yuri is easily the most skilled mage-type hunter we've seen in the entire story, and this is also evident by how easily he was able to completely restrain two S-rank hunters, Kanao and Hoshino, and prevent them from moving. When an S-rank gate suddenly spawned in Tokyo, Orlov was one of the first foreign hunters to answer the Japanese government's pleas for help. He offered to block off the gate in exchange for a ridiculous fee of $10 million a day. However, despite casting his signature barrier, it wasn't nearly strong enough to prevent monsters from coming out, and it was easily broken with one sword swing. After that, Orlov panicked and was quickly eaten by the giants. However, we need to cut Yuri some slack here, as this dungeon was one of the most dangerous in the entire series, and if it was just a regular dungeon, he'd probably be able to contain it. Okay, we are down to 12 hunters now, and these 12 are the strongest of the strong, and the majority of them hold the title as the strongest hunters in their countries. Jay Mills. Now I know everyone remembers Jay as the clueless guy, but he was actually the strongest hunter in all of Canada, and believe it or not, he was actually ranked 17th in the entire world. Although we know very little about Jay and his abilities, it's clear that the guy had very poor judgment. He believed himself to be the king and was so overconfident, he thought he could battle against Antares, who is basically one of the strongest beings in existence. Needless to say, that's the last panel we saw him in. Goto Ryuji. Goto was the strongest hunter in Japan and the guildmaster of the Draw Sword Guild, which was the second largest guild in all of Asia. Although on the surface Goto seemed like a calm and collected individual, in reality, he was cocky and overconfident and was even ready to sacrifice other hunters for his own gain. However, despite his status as Japan's greatest, Goto was no match for Jinwoo in a fight, despite Jinwoo only being around level 90 at the time. On top of that, Goto was also unable to sense a massive shadow army Jinwoo was concealing, showing that he heavily lacked perception skills. A bit later on Jeju Island, Goto showed great reflexes when he managed to counter the Ant King when the monster ambushed him. However, in the end, he proved to be nowhere close to its strength and was instantly defeated. Go Gunhee. Go Gunhee was the chairman of the Korean Hunters Association. He was once easily the strongest hunter in Korea, but unfortunately due to his old age, his body began to lose its ability to handle its own strength, and as a result, he was forced to retire after only a few years of working as a hunter. Gunhee was a vessel of the rulers, which pretty much means that the rulers, an ancient race of beings, granted him incredible strength. Due to this, he had the abilities such as Ruler's Authority, which lets him use telekinesis, and Spiritual Body Manifestation, which lets him transform his body. Even in his old age, Gunhee was still really powerful and could easily deflect an energy blast from the Frost Monarch with his bare hands, and overall did surprisingly well against him in a battle. Also, keep in mind that Monarchs are the strongest monsters in the entire series, much stronger than any S-rank bosses such as Ant King or Baron, which makes Gunhee's feats all the more impressive. Lennart Nierman. Lennart is the strongest hunter in Germany and ranked 12th in the entire world. Despite being the strongest hunter in his homeland, Lennart is not particularly arrogant and is both polite and patient, which can't really be said for the majority of S-ranks. Remember how Goto Ryuji, Japan's strongest hunter, couldn't even sense the presence of Jinwoo's shadows? Well, Lennart was easily able to sense them, proving that he was much more skilled than Goto. When it comes to feats, Lennart was able to hit Rakan, one of the monarchs, so hard that it left the monster confused. In combat, Lennart often uses his powerful ability called Charge, which allows him to manifest a pair of gauntlets around his arms and fire off Dragon Ball-style energy blasts at his opponents. It's hard to accurately say who is the stronger between Lennart and Gunhee, but considering Gunhee's old age, I decided to give Lennart a higher spot on the list. Jonas. Jonas was the strongest hunter in Brazil, and the 6th strongest in the entire world. Just like Chairman Go Gunhee, he was also a ruler's vessel, meaning he had ruler's authority as well as spiritual body manifestation. Unfortunately, by the time we learn about him, he has already been killed off screen by one of the monarchs, so the true extent of his power will always remain a mystery. Jonas was the last of the regular S-ranks we'll cover in this video, so you're probably now wondering, what about the last 7 characters? Well, these remaining characters are miles above regular S-ranks, and each of them is capable of destroying the entire nation's military by themselves. Unnamed national level healer. This character was never properly introduced in the story. Not even his name was ever revealed. Nevertheless, we know that he holds the national level title. Only 5 characters in the entire show have this title, and each of them has cleared at least one S-rank gate on their own. Same as Jonas and Go Gunhee, all national level hunters are also ruler's vessels. Siddharth Bakshan. Siddharth is India's strongest hunter and is the 4th strongest in the world. As with the previous national level hunter, nothing is really known about Siddharth, not even his appearance or class. However, considering the worldwide rankings we were given, he should be stronger than the unnamed healer. Christopher Reed. Christopher is the first national level hunter we have at least some information about. We know that he was ranked 3rd in the world, and some even believe that he was the strongest hunter in America. Christopher took great pride in his powers and was furious upon learning of the possibility that there was someone strong enough out there to kill him. The only fight we saw Christopher participate in happened during the International Guild Conference arc when he was ambushed by 3 monarchs in his home. He knew this was a fight he couldn't win, but still, he went all out and transformed into a one-eyed flaming giant. This was ultimately to no avail as he was eventually killed by the monarchs. Still, considering that the big majority of S-rank hunters couldn't hope to compete with only 1 monarch, let alone 3 at the same time, Christopher more than deserves his national level title. Liu Shigang. Shigang is the strongest hunter in China and the 2nd strongest hunter in the whole whole world. Just like Christopher, he is also a national level hunter, and his class is Fighter. Zhigang is arrogant and battle hungry, as displayed by how he expressed disappointment at not being able to fight the Ant King. However, we did get to see him fighting regular ants a bit on China's east coast, where he easily slaughtered hundreds of them in a single strike. During a battle, Zhigang usually wields double swords, and in combination with his ability Energy Blast, he can create huge explosions with each strike. The difference between him and other S-rank hunters was clearly visible during the Japan Crisis arc, when he easily killed one of the giants that spawned out of the gate, while Yuri, one of the S-rank hunters we previously covered, couldn't do anything against it and was quickly killed. Thomas Andre. Thomas Andre is another national level hunter. He's the strongest hunter in America and the highest rated hunter in the entire world. He is a tank class hunter, which means he is far more durable than all of the other characters we covered so far. However, him being a tank doesn't mean that he is slow, which he proved in his battle against King of the Beasts, where he managed to hold his own and even caught him off guard a couple of times. One of Thomas' strongest abilities is called Reinforcement, and it dramatically increases both his defense and attack power, covering him from head to toe in golden armor. The most impressive thing about this armor is that it was strong enough that even Jinwoo bruised his hands from punching it. There's also Capture, an ability that allows him to pull someone towards him. As Sung Jinwoo noted, it's like being sucked in by a black hole. All in all, Thomas deserves to be called the world's strongest hunter. But there are still two characters left to cover who never cared that much about the rankings. But if they did, they would leave Thomas in the dust. Sung Il-hwan. Hwan is a Korean S-rank hunter and the father of Jinwoo. Around 10 years prior to the main story, he was trapped inside a dungeon during a raid and presumed dead. However, before he could die, he was found by the rulers, who made him one of their 7 vessels, which significantly boosted his strength and made him one of the strongest hunters in the world. He proved his strength in his battle against monarchs, when he was able to fight both the King of Beasts and the Frost Monarch at the same time. He was agile enough to dodge and counter their attacks, and even punched one of them through several buildings. Now, the interesting thing about Hwan is that he received a formal mission from the rulers to kill the Shadow Monarch's vessel, aka Jinwoo, which means that rulers probably gave him enough strength to do so. If this is true, it would make Hwan drastically stronger than all of the previous hunters we covered, and the first S-tier entry on the list. Sung Jinwoo. By the end of the series, Sung Jinwoo is undoubtedly the strongest S-rank hunter that has ever existed. He is capable of clearing S-rank dungeons completely alone, and has also battled against and defeated some of the monarchs, who are the strongest monsters in the series. He is so laughably overpowered that the rest of the hunters can't do anything without him, and always have to wait for Jinwoo to deal with the situation. In addition to his unparalleled physical stats, Jinwoo also has a bunch of cool abilities like memory manipulation, hypnosis, unlimited inventory. Heck, the guy can even talk with monsters! But by far his strongest ability has to be Shadow Extraction, which allows him to extract shadows of monsters he has killed and control them. Throughout the show, Jinwoo created a massive shadow army, which aided him in his battles. And keep in mind that a bunch of these shadows are stronger than average S-rank hunters. Sung Jinwoo truly deserves a whole new tier only for himself. But there's still so much about Jinwoo's abilities you don't know, and some of it is shocking. If you want to learn all about him, you can click on this video next, where we explained all of Sung Jinwoo's forms in Solo Leveling.